Welcome to the next PCC Entrepreneurship Workshop. Very excited to have you all with us. I recognize a few returning names. Thank you for being here. And I'm going to throw it to Elaine to introduce our speaker, which we're super excited about this subject and about Ebony being here with us to share with you, because we're hoping to do more of this next semester and eventually have a pitch contest of our own. So thanks for being here, and Elaine.
Thanks, Don. Hi, everybody. Super excited to have you guys. This is our last workshop for the semester, but hopefully not our last workshop for this year. So make sure you guys stay tuned and keep checking your emails even after today's workshop, because we're going to give you guys more information about what's coming on for the summer and next semester at Pasadena City College. My name is Elaine Rodriguez. I am one of the Pasadena City College Small Business Development Center's advisors. I'm also a Pasadena City College alumna. I went there for, I think, way too many years to share with you guys, because one, I just loved all the classes and I spent way too much time in community college, but I loved it. And also it's been a minute since I was there. But really, enjoyed my time on campus, really appreciate the level of experience and passion that all of the staff, the faculty really shared with the students. And I am super excited to be back now, as an advisor, as a consultant, and more than anything, bring you guys resources and access to, networks and places where maybe you have not even thought about becoming part of, right? So I can 100% tell you that when I was at Pasadena City College, did not know that there was pitch competitions, did not know that there was all these entrepreneurial journeys. As a matter of fact, I don't know that I ever heard the word entrepreneurship or entrepreneur until way after college, right? And so hopefully now with, our media being more up to date and again, with so much access to information you've heard of pitching, of, entrepreneurship and the pathways that this leads you to. But I just want to share with you guys that I really do believe that entrepreneurship is more of a skill set, right? And it's more about learning all the components that you can utilize, put together to either, yes, start a company if that's what you want to do, or, go get a job and really excel in it and grow your way up, right? That's actually what I did. I started a company first, and then I actually went back to working in corporate America and really worked my way up, and has been, transcendent and really helpful and super exciting to be able to build programs that I care about, work on projects that I care about, regardless of whether I'm funding them myself, I'm working them on my own, or I'm working, with an organization. And with that being said, I have to say, you have one of the most invaluable resources right at your fingertips. There is a small business development center that is funded by your tax dollars, right? That helps you kind of work through your ideas, that helps you think about how you might actually launch a project or launch a business, right? If you already have a business, they can definitely help you scale, help you grow, access money, right? If you have a family member perhaps that has a business, you can also bring them to the SBDC and have them support you. They have one really, really great one-on-one advising, and I'm not saying that because I'm one of the one-on-one advisors, but we have an amazing team of over 100 advisors across the network that can help you in all things marketing, operations, licenses, anything you can think of. There's probably somebody within our network that is trained and has the experience to kind of support you through those processes. But there's also really great programming that is coming out of the center, such as this one, which is the entrepreneurship workshops. And I think this is now our 14 or so. We've had panels, we've had different topics that we covered, and we're working towards building out a more robust ecosystem where maybe you guys can have a pitching competition in the future, right? And actually have a showcase where you can see what your peers are working with. Out of the SBDC, there's also a summer program, or sometimes it runs in the fall, where if you have an idea, they will take you through step by step, right? The launch pad that will kind of help you think through your idea. and work on that project. And then the even more amazing part is that after you go through some of these programs, or you go through these workshops, you can then connect to your greater network and ecosystem. So if you guys are thinking about transferring, I myself transferred to Cal State LA, and I am a big Cal State fan, just because, again, I went to Cal State LA. But all of my fellow Cal States across the state of California have amazing programs, amazing resources where you can also utilize and access and tap into other networks, continue to work your idea, and who knows, right? Be an entrepreneur while you're in college, just like I was. So just here to kind of give you guys a little bit of inspiration and show you like what a path can look forward, look like. But also, if you're just interested in learning the toolkit and the skill set to, land a job and grow within your job, we're also here to support you through that. I'm always open for questions, thoughts, comments. If you guys want to connect over coffee, if I can introduce you to someone, I'm always happy to do that as well. So that's a little bit about us and why we're here and why we're doing these workshops. I am now going to pass it to Ebony. Before I do that, I just want to, say a really, really big thank you to her for joining us today. Absolutely one of the most amazing persons that I've met in the ecosystem. So Dr. Ebony Ali, because I think it's important to highlight that she does have a PhD. Is actually a professor at Cal State Long Beach and works within the Entrepreneurship Institute. Has a lot of experience working with companies, with students working on their projects and pitching. And so I'm excited for you guys to get to know her a little bit more, and for her to share with you her wisdom about pitching for $1 million, because anytime you pitch to someone, you should be asking for $1 million, is what I tell people. So I'm gonna pass it off to Dr. Ebony. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Elaine. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for the invitation. I am really excited to be here because 99% of pitches fail to seal the deal. Let me help you be part of the 1%. I'm Dr. Ebony Ali. I have been teaching communication studies skills for over 20 years. I've won pitch competitions. I've judged pitch competitions. I've coached people to win pitch competitions. And I've pitched myself into a plethora of situations, including this gig here with you today. So what we're going to do during this session is I'm going to help you prepare a pitch, and then I'm going to help you prepare yourself to deliver a very successful pitch. You'll get out of the session what you put into the session. So if I've inspired you to work on your pitch, let's get ready to seal this deal and get started. So my first question is, how do you feel about my pitch? Tell me in the chat, how do you feel about me? How do you feel about this session? You can't be wrong. Just let me know what your energy is like right now after having listened to my initial pitch. You can also unmute if you like. Thank you, Lizette. Motivated and inspired. Diana says, great hook. What in particular motivated or inspired you? Isabel says wise and smart. What was it? Something that I did, something that I said?
That you said it passionately, like, I can make my idea $1 million. And it's any idea. You're not just putting in a specific one. It's like anybody can make their dream.
Okay. Thanks, Lizette. So maybe my passion was contagious, right? There's enough space for all of your dreams to fit into the pitch that I constructed. Diana says, gave us the facts, make us part of the 1%. Kaya, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, says, intrigued by your persistence and confidence. Okay. Anyone else? Anything else? Okay, I've got another one. Here's round 2. After the second introductory pitch, I want to do the same thing. I'll ask you to tell me what you're feeling in that moment. Don't censor yourself. You can't be wrong. As soon as I'm finished, just go back into the chat. Or if something inspires you during the chat, you can jump in and tell me what you're thinking. All right, so round 2. Nana was overworked and overwhelmed, but for every good reason. Her business was booming. Her products were in the airport. They were being distributed to diplomats by the Ministry of Tourism. She just received another fulfillment order from the island's newest 5-star hotel. She wouldn't sleep all weekend, packaging her organic skincare products to meet her deadline. But when was she going to prep for the pitch competition in 2 weeks? She needed someone to write the pitch. She needed someone to help her put her pitch deck together. She needed someone to help her practice. But who is going to do that? Hi, I'm Dr. Ebony Utley, the founder of the Utley Experience, and it was my storytelling that helped Nana scale. Okay, how do you feel about round 2? Do you like it better than round 1, less than round 1? You won't hurt my feelings, I promise.
For me, I like the first one better. I think it was more cheerful, more inviting. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Alma. The first one was more cheerful, more inviting. Okay. Can definitely see that. What else? I know we have the thinking delay, right? Where we're typing in the chat. It takes a few minutes for it to drop in. Okay. So Isabel said she liked round 2 better because I used a real life example. Okay. What else? Diana says it was just a different perspective, a case study, not necessarily what I can do for us, but maybe, right? What I've done for someone else might be what I could do for you. I wanted to give you 2 introductions to give you a sense of what pitching can do for you, and that there are different types of structuring your pitch depending upon your audience. So my goal with you was for you to want to engage with me, to not just kind of be here today because you have to be here today or that you said you would, but like, oh, she looks interesting. Like, I think I'm going to at least give her another 10, 15 minutes to see if she says anything that I'm interested in, right? I knew that most of you would be students, that most of you had spent some time thinking about entrepreneurship, whether you had businesses or not, but I wanted to construct introductions that projected me in a way as an expert, of someone who might be able to help you because I've helped other people in the past, but I also wanted to be someone relatable, someone who had access to a story that might be familiar to all of you. And that's the number 1 rule of pitching. When you're preparing, you need to know your why. How you pitch impacts how people see you. So the first thing you need to know is why you're pitching. Why are you pitching and what is it that you want? If you haven't cleared that up and connected with yourself, then you won't be able to connect with anyone else. So tell me in the chat, why are you here today? Why is a presentation on pitching for $1 million something that interested you? And all reasons are good reasons. If you're here for extra credit, if you're here because you told someone you would be, that's fine. If you're here because your friend told you to log on and you're not even sure what we're doing today, also fine. You can just drop it into the chat. Why are you here?
Well, as I'm listening, like for me, I think that it would really help me, like when I'm talking to my boss and asking for a raise, or if he doesn't want to give me a raise, and I can maybe have more ideas in the why he should give me a raise.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm actually working on an assignment with my students right now on workplace requests, where they're asking for raises and times off and being funded to travel and all kinds of things. So we've been thinking about that obsessively for the past 3 weeks. Okay, Isabel says, I have a business idea, but I don't have any experience. Susan says, I'm here for extra credit, but I'm also curious. Got it, right? Just like Elaine said in the beginning, sure. Right? Maybe one day we will be pitching for $1 million, but maybe tomorrow you'll be trying to get your kids to go to bed on time, right? Or they'll be trying to get your boss to give you that promotion and a raise. Or maybe you're trying to get a customer at work to calm down, right? And listen to what you're saying. These applications cover the board. I feel like there isn't anything that persuasive pitching can't help you do. What else do we have here? Kaya's here just to learn how to pitch for fine art pricing, gaining self-confidence. Yes, absolutely. To further understand the push and the pursuit for entrepreneurship. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so keep your whys in mind as we go through the presentation today. Once you know what you want, then you have to understand what your audience wants. If you're pitching to an audience and you don't know who they are and you don't know what they want, then you've already lost your pitch. Right? It doesn't matter what the context is. Knowing what your audience is very important. And without contradiction, it's also very important to try your best to align with your audience, to show your audience that you have something in common with them, that you can fit in their world. And that was my attempt in my 2 pitch introductions, not for me to run a list of, I don't know, where I got my degrees or all the different titles that I have or all the different businesses that I've run. That's not as important as me being able to fit in your space, recognizing that I have worked with people that are in your shoes before, that I have helped them be successful, and then I could help you be successful too. That was my attempt at establishing my fit in your world. So when you can identify shared interests, similarities, use that to make an initial connection, but pitch alignment is what happens when the other person feels like you really and truly get them. So once you know what you want, and once you know what your audience wants, never forget the WIFT. What's in it for them? Your pitch is always about you, and your pitch is never about you, right? You might be using your experiences, but you're using your experiences to answer the question, what's in it for them? What's in it for your audience? So for example, yesterday, my students were practicing their workplace requests, and my students would say things like, I deserve this promotion because I come to work on time. I fulfilled all of my duties. I'm like, so you're supposed to go to work on time and you're supposed to do what your job description is. You don't get a promotion for that. What's in it for them? Why would your boss give you a promotion as opposed to anybody else? And they were like, well, because I work hard. Okay, what's your proof that you work hard? Is there evidence? Like, is there data to support that you work hard? Have you gone above and beyond? And what is your above and beyond going to do for the decision maker? Right? The person who's determining whether you get that promotion or not. So I wrote WIFT really big on the board. I've got WIFT really big on the screen here. I want you to always remember what's in it for them. If you lose sight of your audience, then you've lost sight of whatever it is that you're seeking. All right. Are there any questions about that beginning pitch alignment part? Your why and your WIFT. Everybody with me on the same page? Okay. So now let's talk about the pitch purpose. What is a pitch supposed to do? Your pitch is supposed to allow you to connect with the audience and to show them what they need to know to make a decision in your favor. Successful pitching is about showing and not telling. And I know this can be like a really confusing concept, but what's the difference, right? I'm a professorpreneur. I teach communication studies at California State University. I have several businesses, and I'm the associate director of the Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. I'm telling you, right? I'm just telling you these things. It's like you're reading a list of things about me. But when I say that I was the one that helped Nana scale her business that was doing so well, and she had inroads with the Ministry of Tourism, I'm showing you how I helped someone. So a successful pitch is able to organize experience, interpret reality, and aid in decision-making. A successful pitch is not unlike a really, really good story. And by really, really good story, I mean the story you told your friend about what happened the other day. I mean the story that was on like your favorite like Netflix show that you've been streaming, the story that you read in the textbook. They all have similar formats. Every time we're reading or sharing a story with someone, we're basically taking a bunch of stuff and organizing it so we see it through a particular perspective. I'm sure you've done these exercises before, right? Or maybe played a game of telephone where a story might start in one direction and then someone else gives it a different tweak because there's something else important to them. And so then it gets organized in a different way. And then someone else repeats the story, but something catches their ear differently than the previous people and it gets organized in a different way. Or let's say there are young kids in the playground, they're having a dispute and everybody's got a different story about what happened. It's because they're organizing experience differently. And based on how they organize that experience, they interpret their reality differently and then ultimately come to different conclusions. So when you're pitching, it's your responsibility to organize the experience for your audience so that they will interpret reality the same way you see it, or at least as close as possible, and then make a decision in your favor. So when we think of pitching or telling a story in this way, it's one of the most important things you can do as a founder. I love this quote: the shortest distance between a founder and their funder is a story. So my next slide here is about stories. Every good story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. When little kids tell a story, they always start with once upon a time. Then they mumble some stuff in the middle that makes absolutely no sense to you. And then they conclude with a satisfied the end, right? Even though children tell very, very suspect stories, the format, the tripartite format is always there: the beginning, the middle, and the end. Your pitch structure is the same, except we're adding a grown-up tweak. There's a normal, there's an explosion, and then there's a new normal. So the normal is the way things were before something changed. The normal is where you give your audience a reason to care about what you're pitching about. The normal includes very familiar emotions, experiences, locations. But then there's an explosion. Something happens. There's a decision. There's a realization. There's an event. And maybe during the explosion, things are good different, bad different, small different, big different, but it's different, right? The explosion exists in the middle of every good story. And explosion is a very dramatic word. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just suggests that, something has changed. And on the other side of the change is your new normal. Maybe it's the moral of the story. Maybe it's new wisdom. Maybe it's a call to action. Maybe it's happily ever after. But after the explosion, things are different. There's a new normal compared to the normal that we started with. I like to say that people remember transformation, not information. And so we're still here on the show Don't Tell. You could tell me that you work hard, that you're a great person, that you deserve X, Y, and Z, but everyone's going to tell me that. How do you distinguish yourself? You distinguish yourself by showing the transformation. Maybe you went from being a poor student to being a great student. Maybe you went to being a great student to being like a super student, right? But as long as there's some explosion or transformation in the middle, and that transformation is included in your pitch, you've got your audience remembering that transformation, even if they don't remember all of the little details. But here's how you get your audience to remember the details. 4 pitch elements are very key. The first is an identifiable character. Some of you might be familiar with the hero's journey. Joseph Campbell, hero's journey, basically it's the format of every movie ever made, right? There's a hero, it's one person, usually a white guy, right? That decides he needs to go out into the wilderness and do some things. And then he's like, nah, maybe I don't want to do that. I'm going to stay home. And then he gets pushed out of the nest. He's got to go on the adventure. He meets some people. He almost dies. He's going to give up. Someone comes to help him. He doesn't die. He doesn't give up. There's a pretty woman insert into the story somewhere. And then at the end, he comes home and he's a hero. It's kind of played, right? Now, we don't focus on heroes the way we used to. Instead, we focus on identifiable characters, regular people, someone that we care about, someone that we're connected to. And in most pitches, that identifiable character is you. Next, we need authentic emotions. Again, these emotions don't have to be really dramatic, but they should be familiar. So maybe your identifiable character is frustrated, or curious, or bored, or happy, or sad. Whatever the emotion is, it needs to connect to the identifiable character. Don't think about trying to make your audience feel a certain way. Like that's a risky game. Like you can't really get in people's heads. But if your identifiable character is feeling those emotions, then your audience will be able to resonate with your identifiable character as a real person. And then for stories to be compelling, your pitch element should have a significant moment. It needs to be anchored somewhere in time and space, like a physical space, a particular moment in time where the explosion is happening. And then finally, specific details, like a descriptive, unexpected imagery that would be relevant to the audience, something that draws the listeners in, some detail that people didn't expect. And when they hear it, they're like, I'm always going to remember that particular detail. Maybe it's the amount of money you spent. Maybe it was the specific detail about your dog or a friend who entered the story, or a specific detail about what you were wearing as an identifiable character. But the specific detail helps create a world for your pitch that your characters exist in. And it creates a world that outsiders can connect to from these tiny points of connection, these little specific details, and also these significant moments. Any questions about that? About your pitch purpose, your pitch structure, and your pitch elements? Okay. So now let's talk about your personal pitch, because I just said that identifiable character is probably going to be you. When you're giving a personal pitch, you're basically answering the questions that you see on the screen here. Who are you? What have you been through? Why are you here? How do you want your followers, your audience to feel about you after they hear your personal pitch? It's your opportunity, it's your introduction to your audience. Okay? The personal pitch is an opportunity for you to humanize yourself, to increase people's faith in you, to show that you're confident. Someone mentioned earlier, that Kaya mentioned earlier, I want to gain my self-confidence. You can do that by a very strong personal pitch. Again, the personal pitch is not, I am so-and-so, and I went to school here, and I got these degrees, and then I moved here, and then I worked here. That's telling. The personal pitch shows us these things about you by constructing a story. Okay, do y'all want to hear another story from me? Story time? Okay, this is me. I got a thumbs up. All right, this is me being vulnerable here, even though I can't see anybody's faces but Elaine. All right, here we go. I was standing out the window, looking out on the street that had been my Long Beach home for the last 7 years. I love that block, but I also wanted to leave it. Too many people, too many parties, too many drive-bys. I wanted a nice, quiet street on a house that I owned. I was tired of renting. I was tired of fighting with my landlord to fix the leak in the roof, to get the rats out of the walls and clean the mold out of the attic. I wanted better for myself, and that's why I put in an offer on my house. That's why my savings were sitting in that escrow account. I never thought I'd be able to buy a house by myself in Long Beach, and it was happening. And yet, okay, it was still in the hood, but it was a slightly better upgrade. But I also wanted to build my business. My first educational technology product was in development. I had a sexy product. I had a team. I had traction. We were actually starting to make a little bit of money. And what I didn't have was the money that was sitting in the escrow account for my house. So I turned from the window and I looked at my boyfriend and I said, I'm going to do it. And he said, you're going to do what? And I said, bet on myself. I'm pulling the money out of escrow. I'm choosing my business, and there will be other houses. It was my first big risk as an entrepreneur. All right. So unmute or tell me in the chat, what does that story show you about me?
That you're willing to put self-love first. You put your dreams and aspirations instead of your fears.
Okay, good. Was that I'm willing to put my dreams and aspirations ahead of my fears, that I trusted myself to take a risk, that I'm a risk taker, that I have drive, that I'm willing to learn, right? Now notice, I didn't say any of those things. I didn't say I'm willing to learn, I'm a risk taker, I have drive, but that is exactly how I wanted you to feel. But I showed you through the story, right? Thanks, Isabel, that I believe that I'm brave and believe that I have potential. Okay, but now let's run it back. Who is the identifiable character in my story? Me, right? Yes, absolutely. What was the authentic emotion? Or emotions? There's more than one in there. But what were the authentic emotions from my story? Okay, maybe a little confused, more unsure about what I was going to do, but excited at the end for sure. But in the very beginning, what's my authentic emotion? Stressed and worried, unsatisfied. Good, Susan, that's perfect. Unsatisfied, like all the details about Long Beach, like let's be kind of unsatisfied. Like, I don't know how this is going to go, but then there is in the middle, right? That explosion, right? That moment of shift that I'm not going to let this fear hold me back. I'm going to move forward. What about the significant moment? What was the significant moment? Taking the money out, right? Taking the money out of escrow. Yeah, when I decided to bet on myself. But did you notice that I started the story standing at the window, right? I was standing at the window to look out on the block that I loved, but also to look out on this possible future. I was trying to paint that picture, this possible future that I could have. But in my significant moment, I turned from the window. So I'm not looking out anymore. I'm looking in. Like, I turned from the window and then say to the boyfriend, I'm going to bet on myself. Right? So that was an intentional structure for me to get to that significant moment. And what about the specific details? What specific details stood out to you from my story? Remember that unexpected detail that you just kind of remember for some reason? The bad things about the neighborhood. Isabel, was it anything in particular? Too many people and parties. Okay. Also, do you see what I did there? We'll talk about these things coming up, but I'm pointing them out. Too many people and parties, that alliteration to help you remember with the P's. That I was tired of the owner not doing anything about the mold in the roof and the rats, also the R's, the roof and rats, to help you remember. The rats, yes, very good. Most people say it's the rats, right? Susan says also drive-by mold. Again, it kind of depends on your perspective, like what stands out the most to you, but all the above, like all trash, all problematic, right? Those are the specific details that also help with the authentic emotions. If you've ever lived in one of those like Long Beach type apartments, right? And they're all over Southern California where you got the rats and you got the mold, you got the drive-bys, it just kind of is what it is, right? But at some point you want it to be better for yourself. And that is the familiar emotion that I'm trying to get across. Yes, told us how it got personal with the rats and the mold. Good, very good. So actually, okay, I'm going to come back to this. So now I want to talk a little bit about pitch style, because we just went over some of these things in my example. So the first is that you want to be sensitive to language. When you're constructing your pitch, you want to be sensitive to language and avoid words or expressions that insult, demean, devalue, right? Non-starter, don't do it. If you're not sure, practice your pitch with different audiences so they can give you some feedback. For example, I hate the phrase underrepresented founder because it just suggests that there's somebody who's usually a white guy that's at the top and everybody else is underneath and trying to find their room. So I decided to use the word undiscovered when I was talking about founders. I sent it to a friend of mine, also has a PhD in rhetoric. And she was like, Eb, undiscovered? Like, what are you, Christopher Columbus? These are colonial vibes. I was like, oh, snap. I hadn't thought of it. I just thought undiscovered was better than underrepresented, but I ran it by someone else and I was like, okay, no longer using undiscovered, emerging entrepreneurs and emerging founders is the language that I want to use. So sometimes you just need a friend to run a check, and don't be afraid to do that, right? Don't be afraid to ask someone if your language is appropriate for your audiences. Also, when you're pitching, listen, the moment is over for us to say, you guys. Even ladies and gentlemen is leaving out non-binary folk. So when you're pitching, know your audience and be as inclusive as possible. Number 2, keep your pitch simple. Pitches should be simple, succinct, and shareable. Simple, succinct, and shareable. If the crux of your pitch can't be immediately communicated by someone else, that's your fault, and you need to go again. Find a way to make it simple, succinct, and shareable. So speaking of talking to your friends, you got your pitch, right? You tell it to friend A. Then you ask friend A to give the pitch to friend B. Then you ask friend B to give your pitch to friend C. Then you ask friend C to pitch it back to you. If it doesn't come back to you exactly the same way that you sent it, again, that's your fault. You got to go again and make it simple, succinct, and shareable, right? Avoid cliche, avoid jargon. I think especially when it comes to entrepreneurs and pitching, people like to use the jargon. We are revolutionizing and innovating and better than everybody. Those are empty words, y'all. They don't mean nothing. Make it plain. So we like to say in my community, make it plain, right? Tell us exactly what it is that you do. Give us some data. Show us like you're revolutionizing and innovating. So is everybody else on the market. Make it simple, succinct, and shareable. Comparisons can be useful. Metaphors and similes can be your friend when they are accurate and when they're not mixed, right? So if you say my number one rule is ABC, you already kind of messed up there because you got numbers and you got letters going on there. So when you're comparing things, make sure that the comparison makes sense and make sure that the comparisons strengthen your argument. So her determination was as strong as a rose growing through concrete, right? Everybody's like, yeah, I know what that is, right? Her mind was as busy as the Long Beach traffic circle in rush hour. I know y'all in Pasadena, but I don't know Pasadena that well. I'm sorry. But insert the worst intersection in Pasadena for someone being busy, right? So again, it helps create that mental picture so that your audience can be on the same page with you. Those comparisons, the metaphors, the similes, influence us on an unconscious level, not subconscious, right? Because we're not conscious of things that are subconscious, but on an unconscious level. Next, we have repetition. 3 is a magic memory number. So you probably noticed right now, I like 3s. Almost everything we've talked about so far has been in 3s. When I was talking about simplicity, I said stories should be simple, succinct, and shareable, right? I've got 2 rows of 3 here. You'll see now that I've pointed out, you'll see it throughout the entire presentation. 3 is a magic memory number. It's easy for people to remember when you're giving examples in 3s. More than 3 starts to get a little murky. Maybe someone's not remembering the most important one. 1 can also be strong. 1 is a prime number if there's one thing that people need to know. But usually when you're pitching, like they need to know more than one thing to understand what you're offering. 3 is also why when you go to the website and you are purchasing software, they've got 3 packaging options. You've never seen anything other than 3. It's always 3. And usually people pick the one in the middle because nobody likes to be basic and nobody's sure whether they want to spend all this money. So they go to the middle. So remember that as a product pro tip when you're building. All right. Also, when it comes to repetition, I like alliteration. We talked about that, right? When we were talking about in the chat, when I was talking about the roof and the rats and the people and the parties. Alliteration also helps people remember, and you all proved that when you remember those things from the chat. Because I'm a rhetorician, I'm gonna give you a few more like Greek examples, and you don't necessarily need to remember the names of the examples, but remember the type of repetition and how it might serve you. So anaphora is a term that means repetition of a word at the beginning of a sentence or a paragraph. So here's a quote from Winston Churchill. "We shall not flag or fail. We shall not go on to the end. We shall fight in France." When I gave you my story, it was too many people, too many parties, too many drive-bys. Repetition at the beginning of a word or phrase, anaphora. Then there's repetition at the end of the phrase or a clause. That's called epiphora. Repetition at the end of a word, phrase, or clause. So here's a quote from the Bible, 1 Corinthians 13:11. "When I was a child, I spoke as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things." Epiphora. This is one of my favorite words to say, anadiplosis. Anadiplosis is repetition of the last word of one clause at the beginning of the following clause. So the last word of one clause at the beginning of the following clause. So here's a quote from Howard Griffin, Black Like Me. "The laughter had to be gross or it would turn to sobs. And to sob would be to realize, and to realize would be to despair." Hopefully you also know that if you want to play with rhetorical tropes like these, your pitch is not something you write overnight, right? It's something that takes time. It's something that takes crafting. It's something that takes intention to make sure that you've got all of these style elements at play in ways that can serve you. Number 5, engagement. Don't be boring. Don't be boring, right? Be engaging, make eye contact, use your body language. We'll talk about this a little bit more in delivery, but when it comes to your language, I takes responsibility. We builds a collaborative climate. So if you want to include your audience and it's not a scene where you can be interactive or you don't have time to do Q&A, use we, us language. It builds a collective, collaborative climate that encourages, invites your audience to participate. But on the flip side, like, don't fish, right? If you've got an audience, don't make them guess what's in your head. Do you know what I did today? Don't nobody know that. They just met you, right? Don't ask, right? Do you know what the most popular fill in the blanket? People don't know. Just tell them, right? Don't make them guess. It fatigues people. It asks your audience to do more work than they signed up for. This can also happen when you ask people to imagine, right? Imagine that you were in my shoes. I'm not in your shoes. I don't know anything about you. I ain't never been there. I don't want to go there. Just show me what I need to know and don't ask me to do all of that additional mental work. The imagination can go 50-50. Some people love imagining. Other people get annoyed. You don't want to run the risk that you're asking someone to imagine in your pitch and you've got one of those people that's annoyed and is no longer interesting. When you're pitching, it's your job to be more interesting than your audience's phone. The attention span is 8 seconds right now. So if you lose them on an imagine, if you lose them on an introduction that's, hey, you guys, and they don't identify as a guy, right? If you lose them in convoluted language and too many examples, they're not coming back. So keep that in mind. And then last, when it comes to strategy, you don't want to waste any opportunities in your pitch. I call the first sentence your power sentence. And a lot of people come to a pitch with, hello, my name is, you've wasted your power sentence. Generally, if you're pitching, people know who you are. Your name was on the list, right? Somebody already introduced you. It's up on your slide. Instead, start with a sentence that gets the audience's attention. Make them put their phones down and be like, oh, who is this? What are they talking about? That sounds interesting. Then at the end of an initial introduction, you can say, hello, my name is so-and-so, and I'm the founder of such and such. Or, of course, you know my name. I've been working here for so many years. But start with that power sentence. Don't start with the, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I think, and I wonder, and I feel if maybe we could possibly have an opportunity to talk about, you've lost all your power there. You're the one that's talking. I know you think. I know you feel. You don't have to tell me that, right? And when you move those fillers, I think, I feel, I hope, I want from your language, then you convey yourself as being even more confident. Second thing, when it comes to strategy. So first is your power sentence. The second is your callback. Is there a word, a theme, a situation that you mentioned in the beginning of your pitch that you can call back to at the end of your pitch? So in my personal story, the window is part of that, right? As the specific detail, I start there and then I turn from there at the end. In my first introductory pitch, I talked about how 99% of pitches fail to seal the deal, but then I concluded with, let's seal this deal and get started, so that we're coming back again, full circle. So sometimes it's a word, sometimes it's an experience, sometimes it's an emotion, but anything that reminds your audience at the end, oh yeah, we've been here before. This is kind of like the normal that we visited, but it's new because there's been an explosion, and the explosion is you and the things that you're asking for and the things that you want and the things that you can contribute to build a what's in it for them. Okay, questions about that, about style? Okay. Is the screen still sharing okay on your end? It's okay, it's changed on my end.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let me go back to the pitch discovery. Some of you might be thinking, all right, Elvie, this sounds great. This sounds great. I'd love to be able to do what you do. I am convinced that these are persuasive strategies, but how do I do it? All right, when you're looking for your pitch, start with nouns. You can make a list: people, places, things, events, just make a list. Don't censor yourself, just make a long list. Then after you've got the list, start to remember what happened in those experiences, right? So if you're asking for that promotion at work, maybe you make a list of nouns that come to mind about work. Maybe it's the names of people that you work with. Maybe it's some of the processes that you do at work, or maybe it's some of the products that you make at work. Just make a list of all those nouns. Maybe you put like, I don't know, Tom, Keisha, Kwame, dishes, clocking in, etc. You make that list. You're like, wait, dishes. Yeah, there was that one time where so-and-so like broke so many dishes, but then I was there with the solution for how we're going to like fix not having as many dishes as we were supposed to have for the shift, right? Or, oh yeah, there was that time when like Keisha was really upset and I stepped in and was able to help her like manage her emotions with the customer. And at the same time, we were able to make a sale that we wouldn't have made otherwise. But it starts with that list of nouns. And if writing is not your thing, then get your phone and go to your phone gallery and look at your last few pictures over the last couple of months. Do any of those pictures inspire a memory for you that might become the story, a component of a future pitch, right? If you're building something, if you're building a product and you have images of your products, one of my students is designing bags, I would encourage her, pull up images of your last few designs. And then start thinking about like, what were your authentic emotions when you were building this design? Was it hard for you to come up with? Like, did you get really excited about one? Did you run out and show it to your mom right away? Did you build something or design something for your grandmother that was really important to her? Stories are everywhere. So start with your nouns. Another strategy is questions. So if you're an entrepreneur, ask questions about your customer. Who is my ideal customer? Why do they need my product, service, or experience? How are they going to feel after they have my product or my service? Why do they need my opportunity and not someone else's? The same thing for getting that promotion at work, right? Well, why am I the best person for this job? Why is so-and-so not the best person? How am I going to help my supervisors achieve their goals? What are my supervisor's goals, right? Start asking yourself those questions so that you can get to the heart of what it is that you need to pitch. And then sometimes you need a little more help, and that's fine. You can use a prompt. Prompts like, my first customer, fill in the blank. I never thought I would be able to, fill in the blank. I always wanted to. One day I will. When I was growing up, insert the name of an impactful person here. Mother, father, grandmother, sister, brother, right? Teacher. Customer A and customer B tried my opportunity and describe how their lives changed, right? Sometimes great stories are found in the explosion. And then you can structure your normal and your new normal around that. So don't get hung up on, oh, I got to find a normal, then I got to find an explosion, then I got to find a new normal. That's the outcome. But when you're brainstorming and doing pitch discovery, maybe it's in the explosion, that moment when something changed, that I never thought I'd be able to. I'll never forget the day that. I will never forget the day the person said to me. Those are explosion moments. So you can start there. Then it'll be easy to remember who you were, what happened prior to that. And then it should be easy to remember who you are now after that experience happened. All right, questions about that? Questions about pitch discovery, how to find your pitch. Okay. So let's talk now about pitch preparation. This is not an accident. I told you I like threes. Now we got 3 lines of threes because it's so important. If you don't remember anything else, I mean, I'm telling you lots of fabulous things today, but if you don't remember anything else, please remember that the key to a successful pitch is to practice, 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 practice. Yeah? So many folks roll into these pitches and they didn't practice. I practiced before I came here today. Can you tell? Yes, right? Practice. Write your pitch word for word. No one likes to do this either. Like, oh, I leave it. I know what I want to say. I'm like, no, you don't. Not till you write it down. Try to do anadiplosis and not write it down, right? Like, I don't know that any of us are like top tier rappers and can hold all this in our heads. Put it down on paper. Make sure that you know what you want to say. Write it, rewrite it, sleep on it. Give yourself plenty of time, but write your pitch down word for word. The goal is not to memorize it, but the goal is to know it. Like, I don't have this entire like hour and 15-minute presentation memorized, but I know it, right? I know what's happening next. I know what my examples are because I practiced over and over and over again. The biggest pitch mistake that people make is going over time. And if you're at a heart, listen, if you in one of my pitch competitions and we're on Zoom, I'm gonna mute you and you're gonna be talking, and everybody's gonna be looking at you talking, and you're on mute because I said time was up, right? If you're in a hardcore situation and you miss the opportunity to get at the explosion or the new normal in your pitch structure because you didn't practice, that's on you. And you're not gonna have another opportunity to make that up. When you have a time window for your pitch, come in underneath that window. Because you know why? It leaves you time for Q&A. Also, if something happens, if you get nervous, if someone else is running late, you've got some wiggle room and you're not necessarily pressed. So be time conscious when you're giving your pitch. Know exactly how long it's supposed to take. How do you practice? Out loud, right? Practicing doesn't count when you're pitching because you have to verbally say it to someone else if you're just reading it silently to yourself. You have to practice out loud. I encourage you to practice out loud looking at yourself. Either turn on your Zoom, your cell phone camera, practice looking in the mirror, look at yourself. See if you look boring or not, right? Are you smiling? Are you engaging? Are you moving your body? Are you just standing there stiff and reading something over and over again, right? Practice, record yourself, look at yourself. If you do record, watch yourself on mute. Pay attention to your nonverbal. Oh, I have a tick. I didn't know that I was doing that hair twirl thing. I didn't know that I was always looking up to the left when I start thinking. You can only see these things if you record yourself. So record yourself, turn it off, right? And then just watch, make notes. Then play your recording again, close your eyes, listen to yourself. What is your voice doing? Is it interesting? Is it undulating? We'll talk about paralanguage in just a second. But use both of those strategies, then practice in front of other people. Watch their body language. Are they with you? Are they engaging? Are you practicing in front of your kids and did they pick up their phone? If you can get a little kid, your pitch is good, right? Because kids' attention spans are super short. And if you have a little kid that's with you for more than like a minute and a half, you have a great introduction. Congratulations, right? But also pitch with people who don't know anything about what you're doing. If you pitch with members of your team, like that's fine. They can give you feedback on how it sounds and your nonverbals, but they're in the trenches with you. They know what the product is. Pitch to someone on the outside who doesn't know what you're offering and see if it's as clear to them as it is to your team. So Amma is asking in the chat, how do we know how long we should take when doing a pitch? Usually you'll have criteria. If it's a pitch competition, they've got a bunch of people that have to go through and they'll tell you how many minutes you have. I say that every good pitch can be done in 3 minutes. And I always encourage my students to do 3. Sometimes people will ask for your elevator pitch, which is 30 seconds. It's not uncommon to have a meeting with investors where your pitch might be 10 minutes, might be 20 minutes, right? If someone doesn't give you a time window, ask, right? And then also, if I know that I have content prepared and there isn't a window, or let's say that there's 2 hours that I'm supposed to go give a talk, then I will set the expectations for the audience. I'll be here for 90 minutes. And I'll let people know this is a 90-minute situation. And we're going to be out in 90 minutes and then adhere to it. But generally, Alma, they'll tell you. I know this sounds counterintuitive, but we practice to be natural. We're not public speakers naturally. We've been speaking our entire lives, but it's just like any other skill. Like if you don't practice and polish it and hone it, you won't be excellent at it. If you've never been a runner, you can't run a 10K tomorrow. If you've never played the cello, you're not going to be playing classical music tomorrow. But somehow people think, well, just because I've been talking forever, I could give an excellent pitch tomorrow. Nah, that's not how it works. To be excellent at it, you have to practice. You have to put in your 10,000 hours. And so that means going at it over and over and over again until you've got it right, right? And also, don't fall in love with your pitch. I know it's a hard thing to hear, but it might be the best thing you've ever written and you give it to someone else and they'll be like, I don't understand. Don't get mad. Don't get defensive. It's your fault. right? You got to go back to the drawing board, save the pitch that you like. Maybe it'll be useful for something else in the future, and then redraft. It's the same process of being an entrepreneur, right? You build a product, you send it out to the market, you get some feedback. Uh-oh, this is not going quite the way I thought. Nobody's buying it. They're using it for different purposes. And then you pivot. The same thing happens in your pitch writing. You've got to pivot. This didn't go the way I thought it would. Okay, well, let me save it for something else. Maybe there's another audience where this example works well, but I just found out for the investor audience, it doesn't work. But for my customers, it's a win. That's fine, right? Because a successful pitch is based on who you're pitching to, and each audience is going to need slightly different tweaks. So keep that in mind. All right. Also, when it comes to pitch preparation, always be early so you can show up on time. The last thing you want is to be stuck in traffic, to be rushed, to be anxious, to feeling like you're still on 10. You want to be relaxed when you walk into the space when it's time for you to pitch. So if that means you sit in a coffee shop across the street for 20 minutes before it's time to walk into the venue, that's what you do, right? If you need to hang out in your car, hang out in your car, take some deep breaths and get your mind right. So when you're getting your mind right, the first thing you need to do is be clear about who you are and what your pitch needs to accomplish for both you and for your audience. We've been over this. This is not where you ring it, right? If you're pitching online, pull away from your screens for a little bit. Close your eyes, calm your mind, engage in any routines that ground you, whether you're online or in person. Take some deep breaths, rub the tips of your fingers together, do some slight movements, do some clapping of your hands, some tapping of your face to activate your energy centers. Actually, y'all want to move a little bit? I didn't tell you I'm a yogi. Yes. Okay. Elaine says, let's move. All right. So in your spaces, you can do this sitting at a desk. If you're not driving, you can do this in your car. If you are driving, please don't try this at home, right? All right. Feet flat on the floor, spine straight. Yay, Susan. All right. What we're going to do here is a 3-part Taoist breath. Arms down by your sides. Loosen them up a little bit. Right? And then as you inhale, bring your arms up over your head on an inhale. Then as you exhale, bring your hands behind your head and push your palms out to the sides. Inhale, bring your fingertips to your shoulders. And then exhale, round your spine and push your hands towards the screen. Inhale, flip your palms up to the sky, reach up, scoop up the energy, reach through those ring fingers. Then exhale, bring your prayer hands down to the center of your chest. Good. And we'll go again. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, behind the head, push. Inhale, fingertips to your shoulders. Exhale, round the spine, push forward. Inhale, flip your palms, scoop up the energy, reach through those ring fingers, let your shoulders creep up to your ears, reach. And then on your next exhale, palms together, prayer hands in front of your chest. Again, release. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, hands behind the head and push to the sides. Inhale, fingertips to your shoulders. Exhale, round your spine and push the energy away. Inhale, flip your palms up. Ring fingers, reach up towards the sky. Exhale, prayer hands down to the center of your chest. Take another big breath with your prayer hands in front of your chest. Good. 3 parts, 3 times Taoist breath. I don't know about you, but I'm already feeling like, right? And you can almost do that anywhere. You pop into like the restroom, you're in your car, you find a corner where there's nobody looking. Sometimes I'm in airports and I don't care who's looking. I'm like, listen, I need to calm myself down, right? It's a very simple thing that you can do before you present. You want to get your mind right and be in the best space possible. That's right, Elaine, $2 million now. I hear 2 million, 3 million, 4 million. Where are we going today? All right, the next step is to get your body right. Do not underestimate the importance of a visual first impression. You are never not communicating. Before you open your mouth, people are judging your appearance. I hate to say it, but they're judging how you wear your hair. You're judging your dress, right? They're judging your accessories, whether you walk in with an iPhone or a Mac or an Android. Some of it doesn't matter, right? You have what you have because this is who you are and this is how you want to show up in the world. And someone who doesn't appreciate that about you is not someone that you want anything from at the end of the day. But you want to make sure that your physical appearance matches. So let's say you're going into an environment to pitch and you're in a suit and tie and everyone else is in jeans and t-shirts. Uh-oh, you didn't do your homework. And now it looks like you didn't do your homework because you don't fit into the space. Or you're in jeans and a t-shirt and everybody else is in a suit and a tie. Uh-oh, right? You didn't do your homework. Like you didn't realize that this is not a casual environment. The best case dress scenario is for you to dress one level up of your understanding of the norm, right? So if it's a khakis and polos type situation, then maybe you're in slacks and a button down. So you're not in a full-on suit, but you knew that people were going to be looking at you today and you dressed like you knew people were going to be looking at you, right? And you want to fit in that way. Also, make sure the way you dress matches your brand. So it's perfectly fine if you have t-shirts for your brand and you want to wear the t-shirt to represent your brand. It's perfectly fine if you want to wear your brand colors. But if you're online, make sure that whatever you're wearing like looks good from the shoulders up, right? You don't want to show up looking like you're half naked. That's not necessarily a good look. You also don't want to show up and people can't see the brand that you work so hard to get these shirts designed, but you can't see it on a Zoom screen, right? So maybe that's not your best case scenario. Also, make sure at your computer, you're not just a floating head from like the neck up. Make sure you have a neck, make sure you have some shoulders, make sure your environment around you is appropriate, right, for whatever you're doing on Zoom. Make sure that you look in the screen as naturally as you can. But then also, this is underestimated when it comes to body, but I always do tongue twisters before a presentation to help loosen up my mouth vocal cords so that you're stumbling a little less. I make my students do it too. So if you want to do it at home with me, you can. But my favorite is, my mama made me make my messy bed. 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 Right? So you try it over and over again with different inflections. This one's harder for me, but Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Sally sells seashells by the seashore, right? Try the different inflections, warm up, give yourself a chance a couple of times to make sure that your body is right before you pitch. Also, make sure that your tech is right. Now, if it's in person, I say bring all your own stuff. Bring your laptop, bring your dongles, bring a flash drive, have backup plans for your technology, bring everything with you. Don't ever assume that they're going to have the cables that you need for your presentation. Okay? You might not always be able to see the room that you're going to be pitching in. So you just come prepared with everything that you need. So I have an example of the presentation in Canva. I have another screen here of the presentation on my iPad. I have a Word document with my presentation notes in the Word. So just in case something happens, I have it in all these different places so that I can still continue with the presentation. Have backup plans for your backup plans. Make sure that all your tech is charged if it's an online pitch. Before, the last thing you want is for your computer to die. Make sure that if you can, you've got a backup hotspot, right? So you're on Wi-Fi, but you also have your phone in case. When you're pitching online, also know that you might have to go off video because your signal's not strong enough, but you can do audio only, and that is going to be okay with you. Make sure that you try to minimize as many distractions in your environment when you're pitching online. When I'm pitching and I'm with my nieces and nephews, I always holler quiet on the set so they know that I'm pitching and they don't talk until I say scene. Then they know that it's over and they can come run in and play. At my office at work, I have a sign on the door that says recording in process, do not knock. And I put it on before I do every presentation. So there's never a way to completely minimize distractions in the Zoom environment, but do your best by letting the people that you live with, the people in the environment know, hey, I'm about to do a thing, right? I might come out of this with $1 million. Y'all need to be quiet for 3 minutes until I'm finished, right? Also use natural light as much as possible. You never want your light source behind you. You want your light source in front of you or off to the sides. Like lighting can be complicated, but if you don't remember anything else, remember never have the light source behind you. So I have a ring light here and I have a window here, but also when you're pitching online, test your light sources during the time that you're giving the pitch. Because sometimes people pitch in the day, they're like, this is great, but they're not pitching until 8 p.m. and then they're all in the darkness and you can't see nothing but the whites of their eyes. So keep that in mind. Test your lighting during the time of day when you'll be practicing. And then when you're actually giving your pitch, For pitch delivery, make eye contact as much as possible. When I'm giving pitches or big presentations, there's usually one person in the audience that will ride with me, right? That they'll make direct eye contact with you. They give you good nonverbal feedback, like find that person, right? And engage with that person. Sometimes people say, well, look over their heads. I'm like, why would you do that? They're here. Find someone that you can make eye contact with, right? If there isn't that person, then kind of make it a goal that you're going to make somebody make eye contact with you. If you're on Zoom and staring at the screen, I'm looking here because that's where I see faces, but I occasionally try to look directly into the green dot, right? Because I know that that's how you all are seeing me. So make eye contact to the best of your ability. I don't know who said imagine your audience naked. That's like weird for me. I would never do that. It just makes me really uncomfortable. But just find somebody that's giving you energy back and look at that person. Make sure you smile. Not just because this is not a tell women to smile situation here. This is smile because when you smile, your inflections change. I can hear smiles in your voice, right? So you want to smile so that I can hear the variety in your voice so that your passion comes through. And so also, especially if you're on the Zoom and you don't have the rest of your body to help you, a smile makes you seem more approachable. So the way the smile impacts your voice is actually called paralanguage. And paralanguage is how we use our voices to communicate nonverbally. So paralanguage is your pitch, it's the rate that you're speaking, it's the tone that you're speaking, and it also includes your volume and silence. Truth told, the best way to get an audience's attention is just stop talking. Even if it's just for 15 seconds. Whoever wasn't paying attention is paying attention now. Like, wait, why they stop talking? Did I do something? You got them back, right? So if you're trying to get an audience attention, just stop. Like build a little bit of a silence in, and then you'll get their attention again. But don't be monotone. And if you're nervous, just slow down. Most people are speaking too quickly. And that's when they get tongue-tied, and that's when they start to forget things that are in their pitch and they get really uncomfortable. Just slow down. And if you've built in time in your pitch so that you're not exactly at 10 minutes, let's say you're at 7.5, but if you do need to slow down because you get nervous during your pitch, you still know you've got plenty of time. And then finally, be compelling, right? This goes back to the engagement. Don't be boring. I want to enjoy listening to you. I want to enjoy looking at you. Like, I want you to enjoy speaking to me. I want this to be like a fun, engaging situation. And 9 times out of 10, so does everybody else that you're pitching to. Do you know how many people are asking your boss for a promotion? Do you know how many people want to make more money at their jobs? Do you know how many pitches investors see in a day? And usually they're back to back. Do you know how many other folks are in this pitch competition? Be engaging, be lighthearted, be interesting, be someone that like I want to hear from, not just another person who puts too many words on the PowerPoint screens and monotone reads or talks about whatever is important to them because you should give me $1 million because I work very hard in my business and we're going to make $1 million one day and you should want to be part of that. That's unconvincing. It is non-verbally unconvincing. It is verbally unconvincing. Remember, this is a show, don't tell situation. So I need you to show me in your body, like embody your passion, embody what it is that you want, like embody the fact that you are the most energetic team lead and you deserve this promotion. Embody the fact that you are the friendliest host in this restaurant or food service organization. And that's why you deserve to be promoted to another position. And that's it. That's all I got for you today. I said that's all, like I did just talk at you for 75 minutes. But these are some references that I really, really like when it comes to persuasive pitching. So there's the 3-minute rule, there's Stories That Stick, and there's Flip the Script by Oren Klaff. And I know that we have about 17 minutes left where we could engage some practice or we could engage some Q&A, or perhaps Elaine has something else that she needs to convey to the group, but I built in some time because I didn't know. So Elaine, I will let you take it from here to manage Q&A or whatever needs to happen next.
Yeah, I'm wondering if anybody in the audience, well, one, definitely thank you for the presentation, first and foremost. That was really amazing, as I knew it would be, because I think, you know, lots of experience, but also just helping so many different people with pitches gets you to think about what are the core components, right? So definitely want to ask if there's any questions, come off mute, ask now, you know? And Juliet, will it be archived somewhere to watch again? Yes. Actually, you can find all of the workshops on the Pasadena SBDC YouTube channel. Everything from this semester and last semester is on there. So you do have access to that. But if there's any questions, we can ask that. And then I would say if we have time, or if anybody has, if anybody's like, listen, I have a pitch and I need some help, we can also, workshop your pitch right now. We have, 10 minutes that we can for sure, maybe give 1 or 2 pointers. So I saw Giselle came on camera, and so did Lizette. So, chime in.
I have a question. The pitch, everything was great, but when you have an accent, sometimes it's difficult to make people to hear you or to understand you. So what I need to do to stop that problem?
Actually, I would tell you to embrace your accent. It's part of who you are. It's part of what makes you different. It's maybe part of what's going to help people remember you at the end of the day. But the number one tip is if you have an accent or you're listening to someone who does have an accent, slow down, encourage them to slow down. Right? So don't try, if you have an accent, don't try to cover it. Don't try to be someone who you're not, but make sure that you slow down so that you don't get nervous and self-conscious about your accent. And so that anyone else who might have some potential trouble understanding will have the space, right, in your talk to process.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Alma, I do offer pitch coaching, and you can reach out to me at either Instagram or email if you'd like more information. Thank you, Juliet.
Thanks, Juliet.
And Mary Rose, I'd just like to say publicly that you were my virtual eye contact when you went on camera. I was like, it's me and Mary Rose. So thank you for that.
That's funny, because I kind of joined later than I didn't realize it was happening, and I jumped on. But you did a great job. I was so excited for you, and I'm going to look further into this and figure out what the heck my pitch is.
Good luck with it. Thank you.
Lizette, I know I saw you come on camera as well.
No, I didn't have any questions. I wanted to go on camera because I felt like none of us were, and I felt she needed that one-on-one connection instead of just me agreeing over here, because I was definitely agreeing and laughing over here at your commentary, and just the way you went about it. I felt like I needed to show my facial expressions instead of just out here without the camera, without you hearing me laughing,
That I appreciate that too. When you came on, I was like, oh, we got a crowd. There's 3, and also 3 is my magic number. So yes, thank you.
I didn't even know that. Wow.
I love it. Juliet, you also came on camera. If you want to share anything, good time to do that.
Oh, just same. I just wanted to show my face and, be appreciative in person.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. From Susan on the chat, she said, thank you so much. This was great. I do have a question. In daily speaking and conversations, I care a lot about my word choice, like how you mentioned word choice is important and how you come across. You suggested you should ask your friends to get some advice, but my friends would usually say, it's not that serious. It doesn't matter. Just say what you want and the first thing that comes across your mind. Is there any advice that you could give me and just daily, everyday conversations?
Susan, my advice actually is to read more. Believe it or not, because people who write books care about their word choice. And the more you read, the more it kind of unconsciously plays in the back of your head, these different types of word choices. Maybe you've read a bunch in a particular genre in a short amount of time, and then you feel your thoughts like being constructed in the same way as the book that you were reading. That's how that works, right? So I'm an avid reader. I read all kinds of things like all the time. And I think reading is also one of the things that helps me the word voice. Reminds me about, okay, yep, look at the author doing the threes. Oh, look at the illiterate. Oh, look, there's antidepressives. Look, someone else is doing it. So that is how I do it. And then I just practice it all the time. Also, reading helps with my vocabulary. Like new words pop up. Don't ever like gloss over it and be like, oh, I have the gist of it. No, look it up. Try to use it. I used to give my students, I would give them extra credit. Every day we had a word of the day. And I would give them extra credit if they could use the word of the day in context in the classroom, just to build the vocabulary, to practice, right? My screensaver is dictionary word of the day. Right? So every time it goes to a screensaver, like I'm looking at a new word of the day. So if it's important to you, then it's important to practice and continue doing it. And there are people who are going to appreciate it, but the best way to get better at that, I would say, is reading, quite frankly, and reading widely.
Yeah. There was
Okay.
another
So,
question.
oh,
Go ahead.
no, I was just looking at the chat too. Elise was saying eye contact makes me super nervous. Yes, because eye contact it's a sign of confidence, and at its extreme, it's a sign of an aggression, right? So I say practice in safe spaces, making eye contact with your friends. If you have a romantic partner or someone that you're really close to in your family, just try to hold their gaze, like set a timer first for a minute to just stare at them in their eyes. It's going to be weird, and you're going to laugh, you're going to giggle, and you're going to turn away, and then you're going to set your timer and do it again until you can do it for at least 1 minute. And then try to do it for 2 minutes, but start with people that you love, people that you're comfortable with. Just stare deeply into their eyes. And then when you get out in public, like maybe when you meet a stranger, you make an introduction, you can hold that eye contact with the stranger for 20 seconds, right? And then maybe it goes up to 25. Again, it's something that you practice over time, but pick your safe space first with someone that you care about, and then you can do it a little bit longer, a little bit longer. And but then also know, for some people though, that eye contact makes them uncomfortable too. Right? So if you notice like you're good with your eye contact, but everybody starts turning away from you, you're like, okay, maybe I should shorten it just a little bit to make people feel a little more comfortable. Do I coach better in speaking and conversation? Oh, do I coach in better speaking and conversation? Yes, because at the end of the day, persuasive pitching applies to all the things, right? It's a skill, a muscle that once you work it, like it gets good in all of these different areas. And my students, we play improv games all the time in class. I bring in the improv game so that we can practice, so we can engage. It is another really good way to practice public speaking. And yes, it is normal to drop the gaze, especially in our culture in the United States, right? In other cultures, it's a little different. Gazes are held a little longer than we have a tendency to do. So it is normal to look off to the side, but to the best of your ability, remember, eye contact conveys to other people that you're confident, right? It's not so much that you're doing something for them, but you're showing them what kind of person you are when you're able to make that eye contact. So again, it's just a thing to practice. And yes, proximity is a thing too. If somebody is way too close, it's going to be difficult to make that eye contact. But if they're in that social space that we're all familiar with now, like that 6 feet situation, that is a safe space to hold the gaze a little longer than you might normally, to show that you're confident and friendly. But if you get good at making eye contact and you have like a resting bitch face, that's not good, right? That's not going to encourage people to like you or be friendly or give you money, right? You need to hold the gaze, but then also be accessible, be smiling, be friendly, eyebrows up, eyes open, like that kind of thing. So you're not coming across as a threat.
Yeah. I think there was one question up on top. There was also from Elise, where she said, where are good places to look for an investor? Like, how does one go about that?
Okay, so I'm an investor, so you can holler at me. Also, when you're Googling, right? When you're Googling like investors or venture capital or angel investors, it's very, very important that you do your homework, because every investing company has what they call a thesis. And the thesis is who they invest in and why, right? So you might see a group of Latina women that are investors. You're like, I'm a Latina woman, like, let's get it. But they invest in healthcare and your product is cosmetics. It's not going to be a good fit. You're wasting everybody's time. So make sure that when you're looking for investors, their thesis matches what you're offering. But if you just Google, like you at this point in time, you can Google the demographic that you're looking for plus investor, and lots of people will come up on the internet. And you can go to each of their websites, you can go to their social media, start to do your homework. I build spreadsheets, right? So I'll have the name of the company, and then I'll have their thesis, and then I will have the website, their contact information, the most recent companies they invested in, how long they've been in business, and sometimes like where they get their money from.
Mhm.
Sometimes you want to go to the source. Sometimes you realize where they get their money from. Those are also people that you could contact for investments. I have a list, but I'm sure Elaine has and the SBDC have grant lists too of grants and opportunities. Specifically, we focus on BIPOC techpreneurs. So I have a lot of grant lists and accelerator incubator opportunities for BIPOC folks. But the money is out there. And listen, yes, the economy is on a downturn. Yes, inflation is going through the roof. Yes, VCs are investing differently. And yes, that money is still floating, y'all. It's just changing hands, right? It has not disappeared. So don't be discouraged about trying to find it. It might take a little more work than it took in the past, but if you are persuasively pitching and you understand what you want and you understand your audience, like you still have a shot to get this money. It's still out there.
Yeah, and I also shared, well, this was actually a really great question. It also helps you and helps us understand maybe what topics we bring back. So we can do 1, 2, 3 workshops on just investor relations, right? Finding them, sourcing them, talking to them, what happens after you get your first meeting, all of these different things. So that was such a great kind of like, baby version of like what all the things we can talk about investors, right? Because it's a journey and the process to that. So definitely thinking about that for maybe a summer course or like the fall. And I also just want to plug in the fact that the Cal States as a collective are working on some sort of entrepreneurship guide that we can share with all of our collegiate students. So that, we're hoping that will be available sometime in the fall. And so again, as you guys are our prospective future students, right? So you guys are at PCC now, but maybe in the future, you're looking to transfer to one of our wonderful Cal States, and I cannot say that enough because I love Cal States. We're going to see you there and we're going to be able to kind of support you. Many of the Cal States also have like their own funds or they have their own competitions and, all of these different things that, you can access, right? In terms of money, like pitch competitions, whole another ball game to access dollars, right? You can just go and pitch, all of these different things. So just want to make sure you guys all know that. And of course, stay connected. You guys are all part of our email list now. So as things kind of come out, we're also sharing those things with you, right? I'm gonna take this last question. What is a major called? Is it Mary Rose? Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Or?
Oh, I'm thinking like, what would the major be called? Like for the investing, is it entrepreneurial studies or something?
Yeah, it's typically under some sort of like entrepreneurship studies. I know Don offers workshops on access to capital. Typically you can look at something like along the lines of access to capital, and there's different verticals of it. So there's grants, there is, venture capital, there is micro lending, there is, community lending. There's so much of it, right? And so again, finding the right type of funding for you is different, right? Business specific. And again, if you do have a project or an idea you're working on, always take it to the SBDC and they can actually give you one-on-one support. Great resource to kind of like tap into that. But even as you're, I know we have an entrepreneurship minor at Cal State LA. I think Long Beach also has, I don't know if you guys have like an actual subset for your business management classes, right?
We actually have an Apostle Enterprise Lab that is a year-long 2-course sequence that prepares students to be entrepreneurs. So where you're going to build your business, you're going to test your market product fit, you're going to do marketing things, and then you're going to pitch at the end.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of resources in that sense. There's also tons of community accelerators and incubators, right? Like Grid 110 just closed their application for their idea stage accelerator. So it's super early stage if you just have an idea and you want to get it to market, and they do cover investor relations in that. There is the reason why we're putting together this directory is because there is so many resources and we all work with so many different people that we want to kind of support the ecosystem. So you are definitely on someone's email list now, and that is by far the hardest thing to kind of access and get to, because once we have one resource, then we can just pass it on to other people, right? So as opportunities come to me and I say, oh, this is great for like PCC audience, I pass it on to Dawn, and then Dawn shares it out. I send it to Jackie at the Freeman Center, and she sends it out. We just have directories, and all of us being connected I would say another super easy, fast way to continue to see this information is, follow, Dr. Utley on her Instagram. Go connect with her on LinkedIn, connect with me, follow PCC SBDC, Pasadena SBDC Instagram. And just, do what you guys always do, right? Which is like, check your Instagram, check your email, check your socials. We're trying to get to you information in different ways and things like that. Right. I think, I know for sure I have seen all the great kind of workshops that like Ebony teaches and been like, oh yeah, she'd be great at teaching this because I've seen her teach at somewhere else, right? I can see all the topics that she's able to do. And or if I need support in any other way, like based on all the things that I see people are doing, I'm like, oh, I know somebody that does that. Just kind of putting dots together. So it's a great way to kind of just get started, build your network, right? That's also going to be a key to this. Build your network, continue to build your network, continue to connect with people. And, I feel confident saying this about the entire team and including, Ebony. Don't be shy to reach out and ask, right? Ask for what you need, right? I need help with XYZ. Is it you? Is it someone else? How does this work? We're all committed to helping and building those bridges to whatever next level and step of, whether it's academic or business wise or passion wise, we're all here for, to support you guys. So. All right, amazing. So Don, Annie, anything you want to say before we close? I know this is our last workshop for the semester.
No, other than thank you, Ebony. That was awesome. And yes, the recording will be there by tomorrow. And thank you all for attending and participating, and we'll see you in the fall.
Yeah, thanks everybody. And stay tuned. Maybe we'll do something fun during the summer. All right, thanks everybody. Thanks Ebony for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Lisette.
Mm.